Hey, all right. Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for watching this later on in your day. Thank you for sharing, commenting, doing all the cool stuff that keeps this ball rolling on wellness coaching, on the phases of change, and on self-improvement in general. My name's Rafael Curiel. I'm the City of McAllen Employee Wellness Coach, and we do this video series usually every Friday. Last couple of Fridays have been a little bit crazy because we're going different places, spreading the word of wellness and also improving different programs, trying to get the ball rolling with these different programs and different ways that people can improve their wellness. We're talking about, going to conferences, bringing back bikes from College Station. So, it's been a lot of different things going on. So we don't always have time to make these videos, but anytime I do get a chance to get onto the camera, one thing that I really like to share with people is what is wellness coaching. There are different pieces to wellness coaching, and of course you can always take a $3,000 class in wellness coaching, or you can just pick up little tips and tricks here from us here at the City of McAllen Wellness Program. Anytime you want to, you can always stop by our Facebook page and look at the different components that go into wellness coaching. We try to give everything good titles so that when you're looking for things that you're just trying to explore or look into, it's right there for you. They're all for free, and anytime that you're up for learning new stuff. If you have a very specific question on wellness coaching or on the future of wellness, or what direction this whole thing is going, give us a call here at 624-1426, or you can even email me at rqudiel@mcallen.net, and you can ask your questions about wellness coaching, get local resources. We're here in the City of McAllen, so I know this post goes out to different places, but we're here in the City of McAllen, so if you're interested in what's going on with wellness here in our city, or if you're planning on moving here and you want to know what are some local resources you can get involved in with gyms, nutritionists, chiropractors, even doctors, and all just different types of things that you can do for your health and your wellness. We're going to go ahead and get started here pretty soon. I just like to check my audio before I get started, even though now I can see. Give me just a second here. Oh yeah, cool. All right, sounds all right. So let's go ahead and get started. Today what we're talking about are the stages of change. Stages of change is not something I made up. It's actually from Prochaska. So we put the name of the author up there for you, just in case you're going to do your own internet search of what this is. This is one of the guiding principles of wellness coaching. So if you're interested in becoming a coach yourself, or even just starting to do some amateur coaching. So one of the things that we did when I was back in massage therapy school is my instructor asked us, how many of you are doing or got interested in massage therapy just because you were doing it kind of as an amateur level, and people just said, hey, you've got a great skill, you should start thinking about doing that professionally. If you're the type of person that is being sought out by others, maybe you made a change in your own life and you did it mostly on your own. You might have done some research, or you might have just winged it, and people saw that you did something that caused a positive change in your life. You start to become a magnet for other people who are possibly considering making change themselves. And so if you're one of those people, we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear one of your comments about what is something that you did that all of a sudden people started thinking on the same lines as you, and saying, well, if this one person did it, I also think that I could follow in their footsteps. And there are so many different paths. I know that we mostly focus on exercise and nutrition and the motivation to live a healthy lifestyle, but don't forget, there's also the social aspect of it. People are making changes to be more outgoing, or to appreciate what they get from being an introvert, practicing the gratitude on that. So opposite sides of the same coin. There's people who are working more on their finances, and they made a change, and other people then see how the wealth that's growing in their life and the abundance that's coming from it, and they want to also mimic that. And so you become a coach. You become a coach, a de facto coach. You don't know that you're doing wellness coaching. And sometimes that can cause us to maybe drop back to the way that we remember learning when we were younger. And a lot of times we have like maybe like a boot camp mentality or like a teacher-student mentality. And for that reason, we have a tendency to be a little bit more strict in the way that things happen. We tell people that if you don't follow X, Y, and Z, then you cannot get to the result. And so if you're interested in wellness coaching, that kind of takes a different spin, different approach to it. When you're doing wellness coaching, it's more about figuring out what the client's strengths and values are, and then using what they have inside of them to coach the change that they want to see. So it can be a little bit different, and for people who are very linear, it can be even a little frustrating sometimes, because a lot of times we think we know the answers and we really want to give people the answer to their questions so they can go do the thing that we want them to do, and we can see ourselves in the result that they get. But that's the one thing we got to hold out for. We got to hold out from, I should say. We don't want to see ourselves in somebody else's results. We want to see them do their own unique version of the thing that they had in mind and make that come to fruition all on their own, so that the success can be their success. And we're kind of out of it. Yes, we help coach them, but their success is their own. And that is called self-efficacy, because if you don't build self-efficacy in somebody, then they will constantly keep attributing their success to you. And then when it's time to make a change in something that they might not see you as good at, well, then they don't have a mentor anymore. So it's always better if somebody has the self-efficacy, that they get that from their coach. And if that's the one thing that you can give to the person who is working with you, then you have done above and beyond what most teachers and instructors and people who do that type of linear path of instruction can do for people. And this is one of the ways to do it. It's called the stages of change. You just find out where people are, and then you coach them along from one stage to the next. All right. So let's see if I didn't get too off track here. So no matter what level you are in life, where you think you're at, part of you knows that when it comes to making real change, it all comes down to you. And even though real change all comes down to you, I got to be careful when I say that, because just because you are doing the change yourself doesn't mean you have to do it all on your own. That's where the wellness coach comes in. The wellness coach knows that there is this path that can be taken. What happens along the path is completely up to you, the participant, the person being coached. But these phases, these stages of change are trained, or we are trained to see those phases of change. We hear them, we see them, we look for evidence in the conversation they're having with us, and we help you to recognize that you yourself are going through those phases. And recently, I want to say about 3 weeks ago, we did a program on pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation, if you want to go back through the videos and take a look at what pre-contemplation was, that's the place where, hey, there is no problem. Or there might be a problem, but I can't do anything about it. Or, yeah, it's a problem, but it's not a serious problem. And so a lot of times when people make too many jokes about something that you and them both know needs to change, I love humor, and love listening to stand-up comedians, hearing all the different bits that they do, and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But at the same time, we know that when it comes to making change, it's good to have a little bit of fun with the problems that come about with change. But at the same time, there has to be a clear line where on one side of the line, you're having a good time, enjoying, maybe laughing at yourself or the situation you're in. But then you have to cross over that line to say, okay, now that I've identified the problem, and it's okay if it's a little bit of humor, a little bit of levity to help me get over it, but now I need to kind of buckle down and see what is it that I can do to get out of the current situation that I'm in, because I know that I can do better. And that is where a wellness coach can come in when somebody has decided that they are moving from pre-contemplation into contemplation. So it's the biggest part. It's the hardest part because at this level where we're at now, wellness coaches cannot go out into the general public and point things out that are problems for people and say you need to make this change. That if you are planning on being a wellness coach or if you're planning on doing things to help people, if you were to ask me what would be the one thing to stay away from, the one thing that would be like instant death for your prospective wellness coaching future, I would say stay away from trying to tell people who are stuck in pre-contemplation that they have to move into the next phases. Because the truth is most people are not ready. And I understand that, these videos that we're making, they're not for everybody. If you're watching this right now, chances are you're part of the 90% of people that are wanting to make a serious change and that are willing to find out how to do it. And so, for that reason, we try to give this stuff away for free, but even at that price, some people are not ready for that change. But that's okay. Know that if you are in the contemplation phase, if you're in this second level where you're thinking about making a change, then you're going to be 90% more successful than the people who stay in that pre-contemplation phase. And I give a little leeway there. I say there's a 10% chance that you can stay in pre-contemplation and yet still see success. You might have a friend or a relative who's really willing to drag you kicking and screaming to success. It happens. I don't know if it can happen for the long term, but I know that it does happen. I would rather clients do most of the work on their own, have a support network that supports them, but doesn't do it for them. Because then when they get down to this termination phase, which is the last one, the maintenance phase, if that person doesn't stick around, if that organization or that group of people doesn't keep dragging you or keep pulling you or keep taking you to your goal, then when they leave you alone, you're going to be lost, and you never went through all the phases of change on your own in order to maintain. All right, so we're talking about contemplation. What does contemplation look like? How do you know if you're there? I like to call the contemplation phase the why phase. This is the place where if you have a coach, the two of you can get a little curious with each other. There's going to be a back and forth about having some fun looking at the questions of what could you do? Like what could you possibly do to make a change? And that's the fun part, because you can actually throw ideas out that are seemingly nonsensical or seemingly ludicrous or ridiculous, but if you put it on a board and you end up with 20 different things that you can do besides this one thing that you used to be stuck to and you used to do almost mindlessly, well, then you know that you have a lot of options. And so even if some of those options are kind of out there, just putting things down on paper with your coach and having these conversations about how things could be different might be just the amount of mental leverage that you need in order to start making the plans and make this change. And a lot of times when you're doing a habit or you're doing something that you know is not good for you, the before and the after, right? What happens just before you make that decision and what happens just afterwards are also places that you can explore with your coach and write things down and keep a good record of how things went for you from one week to the next. Because these records actually show what things look like. So we're not quite in the day and age where we can go around with a camera with us all the time. So working with your coach, you're going to have to be just a little bit more mindful of the things that you're doing in order to set up this process of change. And so that's what contemplation is. What can you do alternatively? What can you do differently if you could do something differently? And then answer these questions. If you don't have a coach or you prefer to do these things by yourself, hey, you can be your own best coach, or you can get a friend or family member. The only thing is that I put there is make sure that when you're doing your coaching session with your friend or family member, that you have designated a time. You say it is 1 o'clock. We're going to go from 1 o'clock to 1:15, and we are not going to change the subject. We are not going to leave this room. We're not going to do anything different except do this wellness coaching. I got to tell you that when I did the Mayo Clinic wellness coaching, we had to practice with each other. There was 3 of us working together on the phone. Each one of us would take turns being the client, being the coach, being the observer, and then rotating every 15 minutes. And so those are some of the most powerful wellness coaching sessions that I've ever experienced because there was a commitment. None of us were certified or licensed wellness coaches at the time, but the fact that we set the time together and we said, this is something serious that we're going to work on right now, changed the whole tone. It wasn't just 3 friends catching up with each other on whatever's going on in their life. It became, we're going to hear from this one person about a change they're planning on making, what they think they're going to do, how important is it, and do they have the resources to get it done? And that's where the power of wellness coaching comes from. So at the same time that you're working with clients, or if you're working on this by yourself, know that these are phases or stages of change for a reason. You don't have to rush through these. You can stay in contemplation or preparation for 1 or 2 months, or you can even set a time in the future. There's several people I know, being fortunately working as a wellness coach, there's several people I know who have told me November and December is not the time to do this thing that I want to do. But in February and March, coming up, I'm making a plan to do this thing that I've been setting up and working on for a long time. And for me, that's exciting because I know that they are thinking long term and they have already moved through the first 2 phases of change and they are making plans. And I know that they're serious about that plans because we can hear it in their voice, in their tone, in their excitement when they're thinking about making this change. So if you're going to do coaching for people, make sure that that excitement level is there. Make sure that there is a level of fun there, that there is a sense of importance about what they're talking about, and then ultimately take good records so that you can go back and take a look at how far they have made their way forward in their journey. All right. So thank you for those of you who have taken some time to stop in to say hello, and I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. And I think I'm just going to close up here and say that if you are doing a wellness coaching session for yourself, or you're working with a client, in a just not paid for type of environment, or if you're the client and you're going to do something with a coach, that if you're going to go through these phases of change with them, know that if you're in the beginning, know that if you're in the start of starting a new goal, don't rush into action too fast. You want to take some time with this contemplation and preparation phase to make sure that the goal is a SMART goal, specific, measurable, something that you can evaluate, something that's attainable, and something that is time sensitive. So you definitely want to do that. And with that in mind, I would like to thank you again for joining in, and we'll probably be seeing you next week. So till then, have a good one. See you guys.